you doing? Well, summer's upon us. We're in July. And man, that 250th celebration at the Capitol was, well, if nothing else, it was certainly spectacular. I've never seen so many fireworks in my life. If you haven't watched it, I'm sure that you could catch it somewhere, but it was interesting. I want you to think just for a moment. God has blessed this nation with many great blessings. And I'm not in any way denying the fact that we as a nation have done harm to others. There was an interesting book. I think it was written by a guy named Biggert, if I'm not mistaken, but it had to do with colonialism. And it was not well received. It was a very extensive work, not well received because of the message that it brought. And that was basically one that we know, that God uses even the harsh and hurtful things of mankind to bring about good. Kind of like a Genesis 50 and verse 20, that you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. God can do that. He's God. He decides how things, the disposition of things. Man plans in his heart. God says, that's not the way it's going to work. In Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 1 through 9. Now, why is this important? Because our life, we don't get to argue our life in terms of how it's going to work, the things that are going to happen to us. We don't know. Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 29 says the secret things belong to God. We don't get to tell God how things are going to be. I love the verse there in Isaiah chapter 40 that talks about who's been my counselor. He's quoting this again in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. But who's directed the Spirit of the Lord in verse 13? Or as his counselor has informed him. And who did he consult? And who gave him understanding? And who taught him in the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and informed him in the way of understanding? He said that nations are just a drop in the bucket. Look, most of our life is spent as it began. Now, I'm not saying that we don't step outside of this every now and then. Obviously we do. But God draws us back to this place of just faith. Isn't it? Isn't that how it all began? Began in faith. Now we can tell God what we want. That's why we pray. We can tell God what we hope for others. We pray, but we can't tell him what to do. I know this perhaps frustrates many. It has frustrated man since the fall. We have wished that we could command nature and command events. We haven't. Many have tried, whether it be Sennacherib and the Assyrians coming right to the doorstep of Jerusalem, and only to be in a moment's time for God to take a stand against them, and throughout history. We've all done this. And on an individual scale, we've all done this, where we have listed all of our good deeds, and as a result, God should bless us. And by the way, isn't that what Job did? I think it's interesting how it speaks in the book of Job of who is this that speaks of knowledge, but yet he really has none. God goes through, I think it's close to 80 rhetorical questions. Hey, by the way, were you there when I created everything? Were you there? Did you put this all together? Look, if all of us like Job, in the chapter 42, the last chapter, when Job repents in ashes and dust, hey, look, I overstepped here. Who am I to tell you how to do things? I began in faith. God, you've been kind to me. God, you've been good to me. You've given me an incredible person in Sue that is with me, and I'm so thankful for the gift that you gave me. And you've given me a family and my children and grandchildren, and I'm so thankful and so thankful that you brought me to a place where I would recognize you. Who am I? Who are any of us to question God? Not that he minds it, but what good does it do? We started in faith that God loved us enough to provide salvation for us when we didn't deserve it, and we deserve his attention no more today than we did then. We'll end in faith that a good God is doing in the midst of a crooked world and perverse world. God is doing good things, and he's using you and I to speak to the world around us. It's Philippians 2:12 and on. In the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, we shine as lights. We're like stars. We stand out in the midst of the same circumstance that everyone else has. Everyone faces. There's something different because of who he is in us. Think about it as you go through the next week. Till next time, friends, God bless you.